Welcome into episode 15 of Just Another Podcast, hosted by yours truly, Just Another Chris. In today's episode, I have a lovely chat with Diego, better known as Aim, Shoot, Develop, over on YouTube and Instagram, and of course, TikTok. Diego is a film photographer. Man, he's been doing this for a long time. We dive into his processes, the cameras that he likes to shoot with. We even talk about local events such as Polacon. Are we going? And we even talk about the potential. I can't emphasize this enough, but the potential of Jason Lee coming onto the podcast. Yeah, that and more coming up. So sit back and enjoy episode 15 of Just Another Podcast. Diego, what's going on, man?
Yes.
Better known as Aim, Shoot, Develop. For those that are listening that don't know who you are, could you describe who are you? What do you do?
My name is Diego. I've been a film photographer specifically for 10 years. I make videos talking about rare and obscure cameras, or even cameras you might see in the day-to-day that nobody's really talked about or really has made any info online. So I put out this kind of content helping other film photographers get their foot in the door, get ready to shoot for themselves, and have fun with the process. So I've been a film photographer for 10 years. I've been posting online on Instagram as Aim, Shoot, Develop for 7 years. And I really started honing in on making videos and helping people within the last 3 years on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube.
I think I came across your YouTube channel first. I think I found out you through a friend, Noptop. I don't know if you ever.
Yes.
Yeah, because he was on talk. Yeah, Dave, good friend of mine. He was the one that kind of introduced me to you in the first place. I think, yeah, because he was getting into right at the same time I was getting into it. The soda can 35 millimeter cameras, and I think he had sent me one of your shorts. I think you have a clear one, if I'm not mistaken.
I have some of the things.
You came prepared. Oh yeah. There it is.
So here it is. This clear 35 millimeter film camera. So this is the clear version. And it's so funny because I own a few demo units, but I think this is just a commercial run. I've seen these tinted in green and blue that are transparent. So I think this is just a commercial product, not like a demo unit. And you can still use it. All the interesting bits are still covered off, so you can still give it a go. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. I want to track down the Fanta one. That's one I'm really after. I think that one is super cool. It's pretty expensive. As far as I know, it is only, I think it was only released over in like potentially Australia.
I don't know about that.
I could be wrong. But yeah, so I noticed that you do YouTube, you're on Instagram. I think you're more known on Instagram than anything else. And you do the short form mostly. I think you've done some long stuff too, right? Over on YouTube. But
yeah. So 2020, when lockdown really started ramping up, I was like so frustrated because I wanted to create and make things and go out and experience the joys of photography. And I couldn't. So what I started doing, somebody kept telling me like, oh, you should make a TikTok. And I would say maybe at that time it was the stigma of like, it's still musically, it's still kind of like this little kid platform type thing. And, you know that, and I'm like, you know what, I'll give it a try. And I started realizing that I started posting YouTube videos and cutting it down to short form content and doing like a little voiceover. And I'm like, wow, people are receiving this really well, because at 2020, film photographers were very sparse on that app. Like, you show people a Polaroid and they're like, oh, I remember that, instead of it being like, if you go on Instagram, they're like, yeah, Polaroid, like it's not that big of a deal. But if you find interesting things on there at that time, you got a pretty decent following. And so I'm like, okay, there's a good reception. And I realized, well, I can use these platforms to like go to my Instagram, go to my YouTube, and kind of like funnel it so they can learn more about the things a little bit more in depth. Plus there's, more resources on there, if anything. And so I started doing that, and then I'm like, why am I just sharing this on, one platform? And so I started posting my TikToks on Instagram, hence the platform started building up a little bit, and I'm like, okay. and then I'd post, pretty much use the same content on everything. So if somebody wanted to look for it in the future, they can find it whatever which way. So 3 years of that, just consistently, almost. There was a point where I was so bored, I was making one informative video every single day for like months. Like, it took an absolute. I look back on it now, I'm like, that was insane to do, but I'm like, I'm glad I did that because it helped me really stick to my passion of photography, but also like gain a following that I can help people with the knowledge that I have, considering I've been in this game for a long while now.
So how long have you been doing photography then? Not just making content. How long have you been shooting?
So interesting story. My first job, I used to work at a grocery store here in my hometown. I live in Tulare, which is like, people know I'm always posting about being in Fresno. I love Fresno. It has a very near and dear place in my heart. But I'm from Tulare, about an hour away. It's the agriculture capital of the world. So this is just like context of where I'm coming from. Absolute, sure. Almost nowhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if we're getting praised for our fields, like, that's how you know there's nothing going on. And so I got a job at a grocery store. And on my first check, I'm like, oh, I balled out and I bought a phone. On my second check, I was like, I'm going to get myself some new glasses. The third check, I saw a Polaroid camera where it was the Polaroid 300, which is just a Fujifilm Instax branded by Polaroid. And I bought a bunch of film and I bought a camera. And I'd been shooting 35 millimeter in high school, but Instant was what like really solidified my love for film. And ever since that day, I think I'm 30 now. I think I was like 18, so maybe 11 years, 12 years, give or take.
Dang.
Like, that's how long I've been shooting film. There was breaks in between where like you're just kind of like I remember when they started dismantling the CVS like hour development or whatever. Like, that's when there was these little like hiccups in me shooting film or me as a photographer in general, because like the thing I used to go do doesn't exist locally, and so now I had to find other avenues to get my film developed and stuff like that. But I would say accurately about 10 years, like a rough estimate.
Dang, that's really cool. I didn't really get into shooting film photography until 2020, pretty much. I was always interested. I mean, even then, I did shoot 120 and 35 during COVID, but then I was primarily shooting instant photography. So I kind of did both on the channel when I first, and then instant photography just blew up, so I kind of just focused on that. Yep. But this year I'm going to be kind of switching gears and doing a little bit more 35 and 120, and of course still some instant stuff. But that's a long time to be shooting film. That's really cool. Another thing I want to mention real quick, just real fast, is that I have been envious, and like one of those things where you're like, dang it, why didn't I think of that first, type thing, for your logo. Your logo, dude, it is so good. When I was creating the channel and refocusing it all on kind of like film photography in general, trying to come up with a cool logo idea, and I had something sort of similar, and then I was talking with Dave, and that's how he even mentioned your channel, was because that's what drew him to following you too. It really drew him in, and he's like, yeah, check this out. I'm like, oh, that's kind of the envision I had in my head. Dang it, not the same thing, but pretty close. I'm like, well, I don't want to copy this guy.
I don't know if you know Polaroid emoji. It doesn't go, but his name's Pete Madden Jr. Pete Madden. So I remember I envisioned something like this.
Yes.
Where I'm like this like rubber hose type Polaroid type thing. Mm-hmm. And people tell me that about my logo, just like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, and when I finally met him, I'm like, I want to punch you, because this is exactly what I wanted. And so we all have that envy of just like, I think mine's pretty simple. It's like straightforward, but I'm like, damn, I kind of wanted something a little bit funner. I met the artist who made this, and I'm just like, it's like you took it straight out of my brain and put it to like print. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. The only cool thing I guess I've got is, I had someone design me up this logo for the members. It's kind of cool. But
I like it.
Yours is like really, yeah. Drew it in. Catchy.
I literally remember the exact day that I made it. I'm like, how do I show people that like it's a little bit punk, a little bit cool, but also like instant based. I have had one person tell me like, oh, that's really cool, like a LSD tab on the tongue, and I'm like, that's not what we're about at all. What the hell are you talking about? Yeah, I was just like, I think you read that one a little bit wrong, but I've been told that the Rolling Stones is like insanely protective of their copyright, and so I'm like, it's only my profile logo, it's only my little identity, I'm not like trying to tell people, oh yeah, this is me, I made 100% this right here.
I think, I mean, obviously I'm not a lawyer, I don't know how trademark works entirely, but I think there's a certain amount of tweaks that have to be done to a logo to where you can make it your own, but then again, if you look at like I was just at a convention, like a comic convention, there's artists out there just drawing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but they don't have any rights to that stuff. But there they are at the table selling all that, making money. You're just using it for a logo, and I'm assuming you haven't trademarked it. I think maybe if you trademarked it, then that might start entering you into the world of potential, issues with the Stones. But I don't think so. And plus, it's black and white. Theirs is black, white, and red. So I don't think it's gonna be a problem. But I'm not trying to retire off of it. Right. I think it has to do to where it has to be enough to where people aren't confused by the logo, thinking that they're getting into the Rolling Stones type of thing. I think that plays a factor into it too. But I think you're good. Yeah.
That's fine. If I hear knocking on the door anytime during this interview, they got me. So just where I'm at, jail.
Yeah, and obviously mine's a ripoff from Stranger Things.
I was just like, I see it as like a nod. I see it as like a little tip of the hat of like, I appreciate this entity so much. I took a piece of it myself and want to make my own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're down in California, right? Aren't you like, where are you at? Would you say LA? Yes.
No, I'm like, I always tell people I'm in California, but like not the parts that are on the brochures. Like it's not the fun part. It's literally the Central Valley. I have no like spontaneity in my town. Like maybe I'll run into somebody at a coffee shop, and that's like the highlight of my week. Like that's always really something fun to look forward to.
Yeah, I live I live in Vancouver, Washington.
Oh, okay.
Not Canada.
Just like, people are like, oh.
Yeah. So it's really close to Portland. The classic thing is, like when I travel, because I travel a lot, I always say, hey, I'm from Vancouver. They're like, oh, in Canada. I'm like, no, I live in Washington. Like, oh, okay, Washington D.C. I'm like, no, Washington State. Oh, Seattle. And I'm like, no, Portland. Oh, that's in Oregon now. I'm like, yes, I'm 10 minutes from Portland. So a lot of times I just have to say Portland. But then it wasn't a great time to say Portland for a while, especially after a couple, like 2020, 2021, it was bad.
Yeah.
But it's unique because I live near Portland, but there's not a huge film scene here. There's not a lot of like photography type things. There's art districts and a lot of like this traditional quote unquote like paintings and things like that, or sculptures, that type of art, but not like like what we do photography wise. Been wanting to try to get something together. I was hoping to do that last year. My own like photography meetup. It's kind of like what Polacon does, but out here. But
I saw you are going to Polacon, I think, on the post.
Yes. This is the first year I'll be attending Polacon, the Bay Area one in San Francisco.
Yes. We'll cross paths. I'll be at that one too.
Nice. I was going to ask you about that. I've never been, and I've had reservations because I don't know what the heck goes on there. They don't market. They don't really do any promotional stuff. Nothing against them personally, because they're actually coming on the podcast next month. Mostly so I can pick their brain about what the heck goes on there and get some more publicity and eyes on it and whatnot. But like I've searched for videos or like content creators making stuff. There's nothing. So like
it doesn't exist.
So I'm like, I guess I'll have to be the one to do it, which is fine. But it's also like, oh, it's an expense to go down there and do that. Like I wanted to go out to the one in Denton. I think that's the main one.
Yeah, that was the Denton, Texas is like the original where it started.
Yeah.
And and then the Bay Area ones.
And then New York.
French.
Yeah, and then I'm like, but I'm like, there's nothing. So I'm like, that's a lot of money to spend, fly out there, hotel, and go to this thing and be like, cool. This is, I mean, hey, it's great meeting some fun people, but like, but like, it's a lot of money. I don't know. But since I've kind of positioned myself in the instant photography world, I probably should at least make an appearance once at these things.
Yeah, I'll go for no.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off. I don't.
Oh no! Please, yeah. But no, I'll kind of just wrap up my thought there. It's just like, I love meeting like-minded individuals, even if it is something pretty small or large, whatever it is. It's always fun, and I rarely get to do that because there's no one. Like I said, no one really out here. I've only ever met 2 people, which they're a couple, so they're kind of just one. They've been on the channel. They're Caleb and Alex. They're great. They're instant photographers. They've been on the podcast too. But they, that's it. That's the only people out here. And then I was considering like, oh, maybe I'll drive down and do a photography like trip type thing with them. I'm like, oh, let's drive down. So I'll be blunt, if it sucks, we can kind of just go off and do our own thing, go film or shoot or whatever. Not that I'm saying it's gonna suck, but it's just kind of like, I've never been, I don't know what to expect. But
I'll can I was like, you can cut this because I'll tell you straight, but you can totally cut this out because this is my very honest opinion.
Sure.
There's a person who helps put it together. And I was telling them, I was like, I want to be real with you because I do my own photo events here locally. I was just like, accessibility wise of people knowing what the hell goes on is non-existent. Like, I'm like, I feel well connected to the instant camera scene, and I was scared shitless the first time I went because like, I even knew people going in, and I still was scared that like, what the hell's gonna happen? There's nothing. You look it up. That's why I know it very well. There's no information.
Nothing.
There's like, you have to look through a storied post or like a reel from like months ago to even get an idea of what happens.
Yeah.
And I remember I went in with the same mindset of like, okay, I need to go and document it. And you get so lost in the time, and this is why I don't think so, and this is why I don't think it happens. You get so lost in conversation, you go so lost in like talking about things with people that, no joke, the time flies. Before you know it, it's almost over.
Yeah.
Like,
no, yeah.
It's odd to say this, but like that place is so verifying for your own craft, for your own belief, that I'm not even joking. I like was so excited the first time I went because I'm like, holy shit, I've found my people. Like, this is like, these aren't just the people who show up who are like casual enjoyers. There's a level of insanity there that is nowhere else in the earth for instant photography. This is why it doesn't get documented. But I'm like, I told one of the guys, I'm like, yo, y'all need to help with accessibility because the people showing up have like, I'll show you. It's like, I'm showing up with this, my mini portrait for Instax wide, and I'm like, I've only seen one person with like an Instax mini show up and just have fun. Like, that's not. And I'm like, I would love for somebody to show up with just like an Instax mini and just have hella fun. But it's like, the people showing up are like pushing the boundaries of film, doing, the people who are on the cusps of new inventions and new processes. I'm like, this isn't a casual meetup, and because of it, it doesn't really get documented. You have to show up and experience it for yourself. It's really odd. I've gone to 3 Polacons, and there's no words for it. It's a good feeling. It's a good time. But at the same time, because it's so cool and fun, it doesn't get documented. Really odd. Very odd combination of things.
Yeah. I'm having they're coming on in February, early February. They're supposed to come on this month, but they had to reschedule, which is totally fine.
Okay. Yeah.
I really want to partner up with them and let me take over some of the marketing, content creating stuff, maybe help them produce the thing as far as the event. I mean, because these things, because it's growing, even when they're not even really doing that much, advertising type stuff, and it's growing. So there's interest. Imagine what it could be if there was proper exposure. Because when you hear the word Polacon, it sounds huge. It's like Comic-Con, going to Comic-Con. They should be reaching out to content creators and inviting them out as guests, using us to promote as well. Because for instance, I'm a part of another YouTube channel. My headphones get funky with this hat.
You're good.
I'm part of another channel. It's called Deep Pocket Monster. It's actually a Pokemon card channel. I'm one of the editors. But he just did his first. He did his own convention. It's called Card Party, and it was the first year. And I think he only advertised for a few months, but he invited every top, even small. Actually, he had channels that had only a few thousand subscribers as content creators there. And then guess what? All he did was he paid for their expenses, right? Just to be there, not paying them money up front, but like they're advertising for him. More spreads like wildfire. So it's like utilize some of that. I think would be really cool. Have panels, have like random talks or Q&As with some of these people. I don't know. I think it could be a lot bigger. And that's what I was hoping to do here. Because I used to have a studio space. Unfortunately, I had to close it last year. I got hit with the perfect storm. And I had 24 hours to figure out what to do. So it was bad. My lease was needing to be signed the next day. And I was like, I'm signing. And then I got hit with something. I'm like, oh, I can't sign now. And so I had to close. So I was going to do it there. It was awesome. It was a 2,000 square foot place. It was gonna be sweet, but couldn't happen. So I'm hoping if I talk to these guys that maybe I can partner up with them. But if not, I'm still planning on going. Bring Cable and Alex, and I'll be bringing. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but Eclectic Chrome, Molly. She has a YouTube channel, film photographer.
Eclectic Chrome.
Yeah, Eclectic Chrome. She'll be coming with us as well, and she'll be on the podcast coming up too. We're filming Saturday.
Nice.
So either way, I'll be there. I'm planning stuff to bring. Like I'm gonna be giving away zines, stickers, some of my print club members photos. I'll be bringing the overstock that I've got just to give away. I'm planning. Nice. I'll be filming for sure. I'll be filming something video wise. Yeah. Because I think it needs to be done.
We do. I think every instant photographer, we talk about the stigma, and I think there's still a stigma of like, oh, it's so expensive. Yeah. And I'm like, you'd be so surprised at the generosity there at the event of people just like, let me take your picture. Let me, show you how this camera works and give you the time of day.
But no, I am excited to go to Polacon. I want to meet people. Love picking people's brains, learning new things, sharing their work and their art and all that stuff. It sounds super exciting. I've always wanted to go. So I'm gonna do it. Hey, real quick, I wanted to remind you guys about the members area. Yeah, there are some amazing perks by becoming a member of the Spitfire Club, such as extended versions of Just Another Podcast and extended versions of YouTube videos and early access to said YouTube videos and exclusive monthly signed photos sent to your door. And access to the members' exclusive Spitfire Club t-shirt. But that's not all. There is now an exclusive members-only Zoom call. Yeah, we have our club meeting. We sit down, we chat, we talk about things that we're into, things that we're struggling with, things we want to improve, and special guest appearances from other like-minded content creators. It's so much fun. If you want to become a member today, there is a link in the description below. I'll see you in there. Because I was at Comic-Con. Well, it was not really Comic-Con. It was called Fan Expo earlier this month. I had a conversation about Polacon with Jason Lee from My Name Is Earl.
Wow.
He potentially might be on the podcast as well. We'll see. I sent him an email. He gave me a bunch of contact information. I emailed him. I haven't heard back yet. So that was a quick little update for viewers wondering, because I was talking about this in the last episode about me going to meet him and asking him about being on the podcast. And he was very ecstatic. about it. At first, he really wasn't, because I asked him about the podcast, about being on the podcast. I think he was just in convention mode, being nice, and he wasn't really processing words. But I walked up with an SX70 hanging off of me on purpose to totally drive the conversation. And he did. He immediately pointed it out. I was like, "Is that SX70?" And mine looks not standard. I don't know if you've seen mine, but it's very. It's like I got a clear purple housing on it. It's got like an 80s vibe to the whole thing. So he was very confused. Told him about it, and he's like, "That's pretty sweet." And then I said, "I have a podcast, and how do I approach him about being on there?" And he's like, "Oh, do you have a card?" I'm like, "Nope, didn't get that far." And he's like, "All right." Well, and then there was like an attendant person, a handler, being like, here's a post-it note. And he was very hesitant to even want, like, oh, and so he gave me some generic. I could tell it was a generic like PR, like Jason Lee at blah 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 blah. Like, yeah, it literally was info at. I don't want to say it, but yeah, pretty much exactly that. I'm like, well, all right, this isn't going to work out. And then as he's writing it down, and he's handing me the Post-it, and then he's like, "So we'll go. What's the podcast? Is it about like comic books and stuff?" I'm like, "Oh no, photography." And he wasn't looking at me when he was saying it. Then his head whipped up, eyes got big, and it was like, "Whoa, what?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is what I do." Blah blah blah. He's like, "Here," he's like, "Give me that Post-it note back." And then he's like, "Here." And then we started talking about his camera store. And I'm like, "Yeah, I was there the day before he opened it, and I couldn't go because I was leaving that day." And we ended up holding up the line. Just chatting about photography and his camera store, about him being on it. He's like, he shook my hand. He's like, "Dude, let's connect. It sounds super cool." And then as I'm walking away, he calls me back and he's like, "Here, actually, let me write down another email address." And he's like, so I had 3 points of contact. And he's like, "Let's connect. Let's do something." I brought up maybe doing a camera event at his store, and he seemed kind of cool about it. And then we started talking again. And then we brought up Polacon. I don't know how we got on that subject. And then he's actually friends with the people that put it on too. He knows them, I guess, pretty well. That's what he said. He said he went to the one in Denton a couple years ago. He made his own appearance. Yeah. So that was pretty sweet. So for you listeners and watchers, there's the Jason Lee update. There's a potential
very cool.
Of getting him. He's been the number one get for this channel since I started film. As if you've seen in my intro at all to my YouTube channel, y'all know. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. And there you go. There's an update on Jason Lee. It's a maybe.
Very cool.
Haven't heard from him yet. I don't know if I will, but it's only been, what is today? Today's Thursday. It's been like 4 days since I've emailed him. So it's still early.
You got to give celebrities a month and a half, I think. I don't know what their schedules are, but they're booked till, you got to give them time. Yeah.
And he was saying, he's like, "Oh yeah, when you come down to LA, come to the store." And I told him, like, "Yeah, it's really cool to see, like, when there's posts on the Instagram page, it's Jason like filming, like he's actually like doing it." He's like, "Yeah, I'm there. Like if you come in there, I'm there like 98% of the time. I'm only not there when I'm, doing conventions or whatever. So if you come down there, I'll be there."
That's so cool.
He just runs the shop.
It's like the complete opposite. If you go to like the Gold and Silver Pawn, you're like, "Where's the Pawn Star guys?" They're like, "They're not here. They're filming. Like they're not believing that shit."
Yeah, no, they're not there. I mean, there was a picture that the page shared. The Eagle Rock Camera is his store. It was a Polaroid, a black and white Polaroid of Jason at a table, like working on a camera.
Yeah.
And I asked him about that. I'm like, "Were you working on a camera?" He's like, "Yeah, it was just so many customers, and you just needed it cleaned up and worked." I'm like, "You just work on cameras? Like, you're just one of us." Like, he's like, "Yeah, man, cool. It's just like photography. It's just fun." I'm like, "Dude, you're so cool." You're cooler than I thought. And I've met some celebrities, and they're just kind of like, they give you that fakeness, like that oh, you're just another person in a line I'm meeting for 5 seconds, I'll never see you again, I'll give you a smile and here's my autograph. But no, he wanted to talk to you. He's just a real person. He was genuine. But yeah, so that's really cool. I was a little nervous for my my perception of him. I was hoping it wouldn't change after meeting him, but no, I grew. I'm like, dude, it's so cool. I'm gonna go home and watch My Name's Earl now.
Man. I know. I want to say that for I mean, like, as time goes on, I've met a lot of the people who I've met online, and who they are online, like, transfers exactly well to who they are in person. Like it's so comforting, especially film photographers. Like I've had almost zero bad interactions with people that I've met online, because I think for the most part we share that common thread. But to be a celebrity in that, I think like to be, I don't know, verified in your own space, to be like, wow, the people in my hobby embrace me, not because I'm a celebrity, but because I'm actively about the craft that I pursue. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And
I love that.
Meanwhile, as I'm like, we're just nerding out over, photography. I'm having him sign a "My Name Is Earl" poster that I have. So it's like, we're ignoring, I didn't even bring up the show once. He was just kind of signing, signing the thing. But on his table, I kind of wish I bought a second autograph, to be honest. He had some of it, like 8x10s of his photography work on the table, as well as his like movies and TV stuff that he's done. But I'm looking at his photography. I'm like, dang, I kind of wish I bought a second autograph. Just because it'd be cool to have. And I always miss his books when they drop. And now he's not putting them online. He's putting them in his store and only doing advertisements. Like, hey, we got 3 or 4 in today. I'm like, God dang it.
Yeah.
So I have a friend in LA that I'm just like, please go there. Please go grab me one of these. He posted yesterday that they had a couple of them. And they're signed and everything. I'm like, dang it, that'd be super cool. But damn.
That would be really cool.
I do have one of his, because he owns a skate company too. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
And so I do have one of his 11x17, like one of his skate photos signed. I bought it on his website. It was $15. I'm like, dude, you're just selling $15 autographed 11x17 photos? It's crazy. But
that's so cool.
Yeah. He's a cool guy. He's just genuine. Just follows his passions, man. Just one of us.
I know. I remember seeing. I think the progression of like, you see, I was like a little bit younger when My Life as Earl showed up, and I was just like, oh, this is a really funny show. I think this is really funny. And then you find out, you're like, oh, he's also a skateboarder. You're like, oh wow, he's a really good skateboarder too. And then you find out he's a film photographer. It's like, okay, wow, he's the progression of my personal life. Like, I used to skateboard, and then you find out it's like, oh, that's cool. And then you see the film photographer. It's like, oh, that's cool. Like, is he just like the blueprint of? I need to see what he's doing next, and then give it 5 or 6 years, I'll start doing that too.
Yeah,
I feel.
Yeah. So this year it was fun because I knew I was going to meet him, so I'm like, I'll watch My Name Is Earl again, which I actually haven't watched in a couple of years. I usually put it on a cycle of like 5 shows and just we just keep looping it. But I haven't watched it in a while, and I was like, I wonder how old he was when he filmed it. He was 35, and I'm like, dang, I'm going to be 34. I'm like nearly the same age as he was, and I saw some behind. I think he shared it coincidentally. It was him on a skateboard, dressed like in his My Name Is Earl, like he was like on set, like skateboarding, holding a film camera. Yeah, it's like all 3 worlds just like collided. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's just one of us, except he's an actor.
I know.
And he's a celebrity, but there he is. You can just go into a store and meet him. So if you guys are in LA, go to Eagle Rock Camera, and meet Jason Lee and pick up a book for me. Please. That's your guys' assignment. That is so cool. And then I met also Ethan Suppley, played Randy. He was there too.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. I got that. I had the same poster. I'm like trying to get all their signatures, which I don't think will happen. But man, I knew this for the last couple of years, but seeing it in person, just his progression in life. I don't know if you've seen that, but man, he's ripped now. It's crazy to see. It's good. Like, good for him, man. That's a major. I mean, that's inspiration right there. But yeah. So there we go. That's the update on Jason Lee, My Name Is Earl, and Ethan. Have you done much conventions as far as like comics?
I don't. Like that? Oh man. Admittedly, I mean, you go to, I've been to like, what's it called? Some anime convention. I used to live in Sacramento for a few years, and they have like a little decent sized anime convention. I met the person who voiced Mandy. It's not Tara Strong, but it's like the person who's like equally done a million other voice acting jobs. And it was like Catwoman and like, like a bunch, the voice actors, they do so much. They do a lot of cool stuff. Their hands are in so many like of the properties that we love growing up. and I'm like, damn, this is really fun. But there is that level of like a little bit of awkwardness on my end. They're pros. They're very
Yeah.
sweet people. But like,
what do you say? What do you talk about?
I know it's just like it's a skill. I mean, this is probably like almost years ago now. But I'm like, it's a skill that I feel like I've harnessed over time that to bridge the gap of not knowing somebody to knowing somebody is like embedded my own photography, because I'll straight up go up to people on the street and be like, hey, can I take your portrait? No idea who I am, what I do. No, I don't even do the here's my work, and I'll show them. You see the thing, yeah, like here's my work, and I'm like,
yeah, I don't do that.
I'll just straight up ask and be like, hey, can I take your photo? And they're just like, yeah, that's fine. I've gotten a few no's, and just like, okay, that's fine, whatever. But that it's a skill that I'm bridging that gap, and I've gotten so better at it that I'm like, damn, sign me up for a convention. I think it'll go great. It'd probably make a new bestie with a celebrity.
Dude, yeah. At conventions is a great opportunity for shooting like photography, like people in costumes.
Yeah,
there's usually a lot of photo ops set up in areas for like cool backgrounds and things. It's a great place. Pretty much have to use flash, unfortunately, because it's kind of not, the lighting isn't great in there. Digital's fine if you're shooting digital stuff, but film stuff, it can be a little tough. I shot some film, some 35, but I don't think they're coming out very good. I was hand holding some low shutter stuff I don't think it's gonna come out. But we'll see. But yeah, conventions can be super fun for photography, portraits and things of like random characters. But yeah, I was hoping I can have Jason allow me to take a Polaroid with him, but he said there's a huge sign, no photos. I'm like, dang it. That's the ultimate right there. Get a Polaroid with Jason, or just a Polaroid of Jason, because my podcast set here, which turned into the podcast set, typically I record on another table. It's not very. It's trash looking. So this door
looks good to me.
Yeah, I know, not for my standards. But this door, I'm thinking of lining them with guests. So what I do for my thumbnails, I'm sure you guys have seen it. Obviously, if you click this video, people know what the thumbnail looks like. I hold up a Polaroid of that person. Well, I print them out on labs, so there's physical copies. So I just did Noah's from Analog Resurgence. Episode comes out tomorrow. Well, day of the recording of this, it'll be out already. So I thought about taking these and like putting them up like on the back or something and lining them up. I don't know what. I don't know. We'll see. But I need to revamp this thing. But all that to say is I've also been doing, when I meet people that I think are cool, I will just take their portrait and then just get them to sign them on Polaroids. And I just think that's kind of a fun thing. So I thought about maybe putting those people back there instead of the I don't know. I got to figure something out. But
I was watching. I've been keeping an eye on when you post the Noah one. That's somebody who, in my own experience, when I was first starting up, I mean, I literally don't know any photographers. I don't know anybody who's like classically trained or anything. I don't know if Noah is or not. Probably is. I think he posts a lot of like really in-depth stuff. But that was somebody that when I first started was a massive resource of like the obscure things I was looking into.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, oh wow, I'm really looking forward to watching that one, because as much as I try to put myself online, like I feel like there's certain creators online who are like the bedrock of analog film photography, or like video, or like peel apart film. I would say a shout out to somebody, and I made a standalone TikTok about it. Ken Rockwell. Do you know who Ken Rockwell?
No. Whoa, wait.
Oh,
that name sounds super familiar, actually.
It's so distinctive that if you Google kenrockwell.com,
I'm doing it right now.
It brings up a very distinctive website that I'm gonna give Ken Rockwell his flowers. I always do. I made a post where I'm like, shout out to him and his growing family. It's like if you've been in the space for a while, but this dude, in every aspect of my journey of photography, I will be like, I'm looking at Nikon stuff. What lenses are good? And I'll Google something. First result, Ken Rockwell. Here's the lens. Here's like what it goes for, what it used to go for, like the specs. Is it worth it? Like And I'm like, okay. And then I started doing more medium format stuff, or like, a little bit more lens stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, KenRockwell.com. His dude's on it. He has reviews about all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then I started doing large format stuff. KenRockwell.com. This dude came up on every single thing, and he's still like crushing it. He still posts photography stuff. Like, just a great resource. I don't know. I think he started his website like maybe in the early 2000s, and it's just still like somebody in the space. And since I didn't know anybody online, I didn't know anybody in person, I looked online for all the information about camera things, like and so like the Noah, who by the time this is up, you'll watch the other one. That's somebody who I looked up at. There's another person really early. I don't know if you know this person, Michael Jones, I think his name.
Michael
Menjuju. It's like,
no,
I think this one's a little bit more of a deeper cut, because like when I started looking up really obscure Polaroid stuff, this person was like posting the NPC Polaroid, like those limited edition peel apart cameras, like the ones that were assembled by hand, like. And I'm like, nobody talked about it, and then you just see this one dude talking about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
the one instant stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
No. This is like a decade before that.
Okay.
Like, this is, if you look up, I think one of the videos, if you were to look it up on YouTube, is underwater Polaroid housing.
Oh, sure.
And this one's like a really late post. Like, this is probably one of the last posts or videos they'd put out in like years. And man, this dude like was such a huge influence on me starting my own thing and being like, I want to show some obscure stuff. I want to show fun about photography, what it is to like, just have fun, and was just a lighthearted presence. Even had like a fun little intro on his videos, the really early ones. And man, I'm like, I mean, I even see what you're doing with your page, and like talking about the things as they are at the time, if that makes any sense, some of the ins and outs of like what it is. And I think these videos are so important to encapsulate like the time period, where we were, where we're not. Like, I've been watching YouTube since I can remember, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, since I was like in high school, even we would like try to like find ways to get on YouTube and watch videos. And I'm like, man, it's so cool to watch a video and see people complaining about peel apart film getting charged $12 or something. And you're like, man, I would gladly pay $12 for a pack nowadays. These complaints are hilarious now, but in hindsight, yeah, that was a little bit expensive. They were like $10 or $9 a pack, way back in the day. But these there's a lot of other ones. There's Ben within an instant, who I've met. He's a really cool person. There's a few other ones that I'm like, man, these people, Ben, I think Ben, his videos had come out around the same time as mine started coming out. Now I remember even telling him, I'm like, man, you have the look down. Like, mine are just me recording in my house. Like, it looks like I'm in a house. Yours is like a studio. Yours looks gorgeous. And but I think it's really important. I don't think people tell other creators how important it is of what they're doing, because to us, to me and you, it's just like, yeah, we do it because we like it. But sometimes we forget that on the other end of it, there's somebody watching this that's just like, oh, I'm so glad they made this. I'm so glad somebody talked about this, because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, I totally agree on that. Then yeah, that's awesome to hear. I think my favorite like channels are the ones that do like what you were just talking about, are not in a studio setting, but like just in their room, because that's like they're showing their real passion, and those are the ones that really draw me like into it. That's so Molly from Eclectic Crumbs that way. She's kind of just films in her living room, her bedroom, or kind of just wherever, and I like that. I like when I see creators do that. Like I have I don't have my official studio space, but I have a set built in my spare bedroom, so it's like a whole thing. And people always comment and say how like, oh, it's so professional, you're so like this and that. I'm like, Thank you. It's a compliment, but I'm also like, I still try to have that, like, no, I still like to have that roughness, that little, like, just that more genuine, realistic feel, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just kind of my 2 cents on that. But, I love seeing when people do it. Just filming in your bedroom. Oh. Just a shelf with your cameras, and there's like a little mess in the corner. That's the best.
Oh no, I the reason I'm pointed back to this bedroom wall, or just the here in my bedroom, like, if you were to see that, like, just the amount of stuff, even here to the side, if you were to see the cameras that are here, that I was like, oh, it'd be cool to, you know, go and talk about, you'd be like, okay, well, first off, you have a problem. There's cameras scattered everywhere. Like, there is, yeah, it's insane. But same as you, I do like a little bit of roughness. I kind of like the off cuff, like the real thoughts, kind of. Because it's like, wow, that's how they really feel. It's not a curated thing. Don't get me wrong. I do love a good, really thought out, curated video where your opinions are solid, and, you know, it is what it is. Sure. But the creator space in camera stuff is an interesting world to be in, I guess, if that makes any sense. Like, how do you feel on your end being a creator in this space? Like, I have obviously tons of questions for you. I'm just like, I don't know if you're ready for this, but
go ahead.
How do you feel about being like a film photographer in a space, right, where in every other realm, I would say, like, and I'm not trying to dunk on other creative areas, like, you know, there's videography, there's photography specifically, but like the film camera world, but like, how do you feel being in the space that you basically have to carve out every opportunity for yourself? Because, you know, with videography or video content or more digital cameras that are more accessible, you can just tell people, oh, go buy this. You can become influence in a digital camera. And in the film world, like, you show off a camera that hasn't been produced in 30 years and you're just like, I don't make a cut off of, like, there's no way to monetize it other than my own lane, my own thing. And so I'm like, how do you feel being in that space, knowing you have to build everything yourself? You know, question for you.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's one of the daily struggles of doing this type of content. I've been wanting to actually make a video kind of talking about this. So I'll mention it here. It's perfect. Kind of talking about, one, the expense to run a channel like mine. Because most YouTube creators or content creators do get kickbacks from like affiliate links or sponsorships from like Squarespace or, you know, all these types of things. And so they spend money on, you know, the camera, but they'll get it back from ad revenue or sponsorships and stuff. But when you do a YouTube video on a Polaroid camera or a film camera from, like you said, like 30, 40 years ago, they don't make that. So I can't link that for you to go buy. I have to be like, go to eBay, go to Facebook Marketplace, go to OfferUp or whatever, find it yourself. I don't get any money from that. You know, and then also less people are searching for that because, one, they may not know it exists in the first place. So when the channels that you normally see are like on the digital camera releases, and there's like 50 videos that will come out the same day from all these different content creators because there's a big marketing campaign. So channels like mine and yours and other people that are in, you know, what we do, it's tough to get eyeballs on our stuff in the first place because it is a constant fight. You have to really just dig and grind to try and get seen. As well as try to make money, because if you want to turn this into a business in the first place, which that usually doesn't necessarily start out when you make a YouTube channel. You hope that maybe I'll get a free backpack, or I'll get a free lens, or I'll get this. I'll make a video, you know. But once you start making like a handful of videos and you start getting that, you know, that interaction, some comments, your brain starts to like hope maybe I can turn this into a job one day and do this for a living, quit my day job. So to try and make money on a channel like mine is really, really tough, or just anyone's, even you. You struggle with that too. Everyone like what we do. So when I do make videos on a camera that I can't make money off of, I will at least attempt to try and mention an accessory that's on Amazon, like a camera strap, or or something else or just leave links in the description to film that's on Amazon, just so I can get a couple of dollars, to try and grind that up to where I can get a little kickback in that regards. I hope that answered your question. I hope that was what you were asking.
No. I think about it this way, and it goes back to like the previous statement of like when I see people talking about these videos and like the the grittiness, the whatever. I'm like, the people from way back in the day that didn't even like. I'm sure there was creators that were making big money, but like feasibly didn't understand like you can make a living off of this. Like they just did it because they wanted to. I would say even me like today, like I'll make an off-cut video talking about something that doesn't exist, doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, and I do it because I want to help people with their own journey. You know what I mean? Like, why are you going to spend money on things that, you're going to make them, it's going to lead to, doesn't work or makes a mistake or, it's not even the right thing for what you're going to buy type thing. Like buying a vintage Polaroid and, linking, telling people, oh yeah, any Polaroid film works. I'm like, I don't get anything but, it's just like, no, you tell them 600 fits here, look at the bottom of the thing. Like, it's a little blip in the thing. I don't make money off of this, but, we do it because we try to uplift the community, if that makes any sense. Not make the same mistake. I've seen tons of people. I clearly remember making a video where it was an Instax mini camera. And you know how there's like the little yellow tab that like, you line up the yellows, yellow tab. And somebody commented like, ooh, I put that in backwards. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm like, this is why. They like, it'll fit. If you slam it backwards, like the notches and everything still work. But they were just like, ooh, yeah, I didn't think that was like that. I'm like, there you go. I don't gain anything from it, but we try our best to inform it's such a weird space to navigate because when I first started, like, I realized somebody asked me about camera stuff or something, and I was just going on and on about it. And they're like, wow, you should really put this online and share this with people. And I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, just like, oh, sure. And I'm like, I try to get that feeling of talking to somebody who you know and trust, build their confidence in film, because I would say instant film is the least forgiving thing. Like, it'll put you in the ringer. It'll make you feel a little bit silly for spending all this money. And then at the tail end of it, you're just like, wow, when you get one good shot out of a roll, you're just like, totally worth it. 100%. Do it again.
Yeah. No,
it's a little bit of insanity.
It is. and kind of going back to something you said just a moment ago, we do. We all start out because we want to share something that we're passionate about. And when I started doing, because my channel's been a lot of different things. It's just been like a personal like dump page. Here's a video, because I was on other YouTube channels doing other things, type of thing. I just wanted to make, I want to make this today. I want to do this or that. You go back and look at my videos. There's wild, like different topics, different random things. It wasn't until 2020 I kind of like just focused it on, hey, I'm going to share this hobby. I'm really passionate. I'm really into this. Even though my first instant photography video was in 2018. I did the Instax Mini 9. I bought it because I was doing a Patreon page. And I'm like, I'll give away. I was one of the ones. I'll give away a Polaroid picture. And it's an Instax. I was one of them. I was guilty of that. Where I referred to it as that. So I did a review of the camera, and it was really fun. I'm like, I think I want to do this full time. And then I didn't, because I was doing other stuff on another channel with other people. It was the hobby page. And then in 2020 is when I focused it in there, and it was literally just to share the hobby. And then I'm like, well, this is getting really expensive, so I probably should make content about this. So maybe I could get a couple of dollars back to pay for some of this film. That's kind of how it went. But I genuinely was like, I was struggling to figure stuff out, and there was plenty. Well, there was some. I won't say plenty. There was some content out there that was super helpful. Like Noah's channel was a big one. So having him on and recording, talking to him was awesome. He's super cool, really nice guy. And there was just a handful of other ones, and I'm like, well, there really aren't like a ton of channels that were answering my questions. The ones that I really was struggling with, or trying to figure out like temperature for Polaroid film. I was like, why this Polaroid sucks? It's all turning purple or pink or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's July and I'm shooting out in 100-degree weather. Of course, yeah, right. But I didn't know that, and so I learned. I'm like, I need to make a video about this because one, maybe I'll forget one day, And so I can go back and rewatch it myself. And I had to do that. Side note, with the mint bar flash. I don't know why. I was having a massive brain fart, and I Googled it. And I'm like, hey, there's my video. I gotta watch my video, and then I'm like halfway through, I'm like, oh wait, dang it, no, it's the half one. Anyway, I don't know why I brain farted, but I did. Maybe because I was just like, oh, I'm meeting a celebrity. What do I say? And I couldn't figure it out. I was like stressed out. But yeah, so there wasn't like a ton of videos answering my questions. They were all generic. Like, for instance, there would be like an unboxing of the One Step Plus. I say that because it's literally in front of me right now. And actually it works out because I was watching iJustine. I don't know if you guys know who iJustine is, but iJustine did a video. She's a huge, popular, multi-million subscriber channel, and she did a video on the One Step Plus, and she snapped some photos. That was her review, but it wasn't telling me anything other than like, here's the camera, and here's my pictures. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm like, okay. And so I watched more people, and that's all it was. Overviews of like what what buttons it has. Not going out and showing me different scenarios, like, no, it's proper uses. I'm like, okay, so I'll have to be the one to do this. I'll be the opposing views. I'll be the opposing arguments. I'll take the heat and flack, and I have for sure on multiple stuff. So mostly Polar. I've even pissed Polar right off, as all the listeners and viewers know. And that's okay. That's fine. You come here for transparency and honesty, and I'll show you the results. There's no, like, I can't be bought, essentially. I don't know why I went on this tangent, but I did. And there it is.
Go off. No, it's okay. So I'm mostly on the TikTok space, right? It's something that there's a handful of us and a lot of people who I've met in person who are absolutely sweet. They're all really cool. I don't know if you know any of these people. I'm just naming them off because
sure.
I think giving people their flowers while I'm speaking of them, I'm like, I like speaking highly of the people where I'm like, I'll tell them they're doing amazing. I don't care. I'll tell them in person. I'll tell them online. Emily Swift, who runs Dark Slide Film Lab, is first a photographer, but makes videos talking about darkroom processes and like film camera processes. And she runs her own film lab, so she makes videos talking about that. Absolute sweet person, invited me to her film lab. I shot 4x5 sheets, like amazing. The whole thing was really fun. I've met Sissy Lou, who is another big TikTok creator. Again,
I think I know her.
Say artist first.
Right.
Yeah. I say artists first, and then they share their art in that format. You know?
Yeah. Is she out in New York?
And
is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah. I met her in New York.
Yeah, I've seen her.
And again, like an amazing photographer, but like just a sweet person in real life, and in the TikTok space specifically, and this is why I say this, like I see a lot of people who are like, as of right now, digicams are on the rage, if that makes sense. Like the old early 2010s, early 2000s digicams are on the rage. I've made this prediction years ago.
Yeah, me too.
I have receipts. You can look at you know what I mean. I have the receipts from that where I'm like, oh, it's coming back. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I've done a few of them companies years ago.
Yeah, and companies are starting to see the trend, and so they're wrapping up production on like the cheapest digicam you've ever, to the point where it's not even a flash; it's 3 LED lights that go off.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I'm like, I for one love when something's so bad it's good. Like I love that. Right, there's times where like the shots are so bad that it's kind of a look, it's kind of a vibe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And well, I like, similar to you talking about an honest review where somebody's kind of just like whatever. Well, I keep seeing these people that are shilling like vacuum cleaners, earwax cleaners, and then they'll be like, guys, this is it. This is 44 megapixels, and it shoots. It shoots whatever, and then I'm like, bro, that's not. Please stop talking about. And so you have to be that counter voice and be like, it's $15. You're gonna get what you pay for. Let's be real here. Like, right. Is it gonna work in low light? Probably not. Yeah. But it's $15. If you want something that's fun in the daylight, then live your life. I'm not, make your own decisions. But if here's what I feel, and whatever. And it's super weird how we have these kind of responsibilities as it's not a bad thing or whatever, but we do have a responsibility to be devastatingly honest and be like, it's just like, I could see how this might be for some people, like kids or something. You're not gonna break my insanely nice cameras. I'm gonna hand off my medium format camera to a kid. I mean, I'll let them hold it or whatever, but like to break or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, you give them a $15 camera, they break it. Like, who cares?
Right.
But they're marketing it towards like adults and like, this is the camera to buy. And I'm like, please stop lying to everybody. Please stop lying to everybody. It's so interesting. So if you thought YouTube and Instagram got some people shilling some stuff, you have not been on TikTok. It is awful out there. We love it so much. In the mess of all that, there's these amazing creators, and they're getting muddied by, not them specifically, but like the space is being muddied by people just shilling terrible product.
Yeah, and then they don't know. I'll be blunt. I mean, that's fine. I'll just say it. But like, there's people that are reviewing things that don't have any business reviewing it because they don't know anything about it. I think that's the point you were kind of trying to, or were making. Not trying. You were successfully making that point. But you said a lot nicer than I just did. So, and that was one of the complaints I had with Polaroid and their i2 marketing thing. And I was pretty vocal about that. They said people had no business messing with that camera.
I saw I've obviously known of you for a long time before we started following each other. I think I'd seen when you'd posted the i2 on Reddit. I don't know, you can cut that up. You're supposed to say that or not.
I didn't post it.
But I'd seen when you posted it on your, somebody did, but then you reposted it on something, or it came up somewhere.
Oh, it wasn't me.
Was it you or no? I don't know.
I don't use Reddit, so if it was there, I'm sure it was someone probably put it there. I don't use Reddit. I don't even have an account.
Okay, fair. Okay, fair. So I remember when the first person leaked the i2 on Reddit, I thought it was a joke because there was a ongoing joke about a digital Rolleiflex coming out or something, a full frame Rolleiflex digital camera or something insane, and people were just like, "That's not real." But then when the i2 came out, I'm like, "Oh shit, it is real." Whatever. I remember when it started leaking, I'm just like, I don't know if this is a real product or not, and there are certain people that did get their hands on it, and that's totally fine. That they know, I think it's really cool, and they had to like not talk about it for a long time. And I'm like, NDA makes sense. It's fair. But I will say that in the spaces, in the film camera space specifically, unless you're making content and really putting yourself out there, the people who are like masters of their craft rarely post anything online. And I hate to say that, but it's true. Like the people who are taking the most gorgeous photos sometimes don't have a big following. The people who are like so embedded in their craft, they're not online talking about the processes. They're just doing it. As much as I can say that very comfortably as somebody who's online talking about the processes. I know my space in the world in this scene. For me, it's a fun hobby. It's a journey that I share with everybody. But like, there's a lot of people out there that, man, I wish they had the exposure I had. I'll lend them to it. I'll post their stories. I post their work. But like, these companies are getting passed by somebody who's just like, oh, well, you got a lot of following. Here's the stuff.
Well, so don't mean to cut you off, but like, for instance, I've talked about this before, so the listener is going to be like, oh, here goes Chris again. But so just a short version of what they're like rolling their eyes with right now, is that Polaroid, they sent it out, did a massive marketing campaign, which is awesome. I really love that because they've never done it before and they're really trying. Yeah. But the people they sent it to were channels that I know why they did it, but they sent it to channels that don't know anything about it, because then they can't say anything bad about it. So it's just like, oh, here's the camera, here's the results, here's what it does. Like, comment, and subscribe. Here's the link to go buy it. And then everything's, hunky dory. But they sent it to, some channels that had, pretty large following, way bigger than you and I and any instant photographer. But they also sent it to channels that were just straight up tech channels that just generically reviewed stuff, but channels that had like 1,000 subscribers. They're just small time nobodies, which is a really cool thing because they're like given, to the small people. But the people that are like in the trenches, daily making focused content on instant photography did not get it. They didn't get one, which I just think is a well, people know, but I just think they don't have the balls. They didn't have the balls to send it to those people, because we would point out the negative stuff and the positive. And it's a $600 camera. You don't want something being negative talked about and pointed out. They'd rather let people spend that money. They get the money and then let them figure it out on their own once they bought it. And I've read the comments. People have sent me Reddit links, and I've read those people bitching, moaning, and complaining about why their photos are coming out way overexposed in auto mode, or having to send it back because of whatever reason. But
ooh, Chris, are you ready? Are you ready for a little bit of a debate? I feel I have the opposite mindset on the i2 than you do, as somebody who didn't purchase one. Well, I guess in general of the thing, if you're down for this.
So before you say that, I'll say this: I think the camera. I don't necessarily think it's bad. I just think auto mode doesn't work. Forget it. Throw it out. The light sensor on that is awful. But people aren't going to be buying it for that feature anyway. They're buying it for the manual controls. So if you use your own brain and photography, you're going to get good pictures with it. My complaints are coming from, it should be good. They put it in there, it should be good. And if it's not, so I point it out. Now, if you're using an external light meter, all that sort of stuff, the camera's fine because you're setting the settings. You're doing it yourself. You're using your own smarts. Yeah. That's why I'll leave it.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's fair. I think we both have that similar mindset. I do know that the auto runs, I think, a little bit hot. I've seen online it runs a little bit hot. And and I feel that the one thing is just like I admire that they're still putting out products, considering like we've had things ripped away from us for years, like Peel Apart Films, the major one. I clearly remember the day that they discontinued it. It was a very dark day. Everybody was, hoarding the stuff. And so I still see it as a positive light that new products are coming out. They're still pouring money into R&D, into new things. I think about like previous renditions. If you think of previous renditions of certain Nikon cameras in the past, where it's like, oh, well, we didn't have this feature, but the next one has this other feature type thing. And you would hope to see the progression over time. But the initial thing, the product now, it's like, is marketed a little bit more towards professionals. It's not so much obviously for the casual enjoyer. So the people buying it, I think we both are on the same page that know a little bit more about Polaroids or film photography in general. So I think that's the market they were trying to capture. I do understand the concerns of like, let's say somebody just wanted to ball out and buy the top of the line camera they could at the time, the newest of the new type of thing. And they didn't know about it. It would be a little bit frustrating to get it auto and be like, why do they look like this type thing? I get that.
Yeah.
I'm glad it exists. I'm glad they're pouring more money into R&D because it shows that, we'll still have Polaroid film. I have been around. So the first little Instax camera that I had, the one I was telling you about earlier, I remember I found my family's Polaroid camera. And there was maybe a year where you couldn't buy film for it. It was that cusp between it had been discontinued and the Impossible Project was like starting to start up type thing.
Yeah.
And I clearly remember like having my own job, going in the Impossible Project. I missed the Pioneer card by like a month because like there was that, when you get a job and they like take your check, it takes a little bit to get the first check type thing. And I missed the Pioneer card, the first, early backers of the Polaroid film. I've wanted it so bad. And those early Impossible Project photos, like, it's not documented, but they were so bad. Like,
that's what I've heard.
They were so awful.
I never
Nobody
used
talks
it.
about that. And this is how bad it was, and I think about this a lot. I clearly remember Impossible Project doing a contest saying, hey, show us your favorite shots with divots, and you can win a prize. And like, show us how bad the film is, like how you worked it into your composition, and you can win a prize. Like that's how. And I can tell you, coming from that to now,
They haven't
is a
changed.
godsend. So no, all my photos were brown. It was supposed to be color film. Like it was so bad, and I gladly bought it because in 2014, going to parties with a Polaroid camera was like the coolest thing. It was like the most indie sleaze thing you could possibly think of. Like, and the photos were awful. I could tell you that straight up. They were god awful.
So,
but go for it. This is why I was like, I don't mind having this debate because the progression from when I started, from when I clearly remember paying my own adult money, to now, comes so far. I'm very grateful for that. It exists, right? I also shoot. I have a 680, same with the custom, right?
Yeah.
Right. I still shoot it to this day. It's one of my like. This is like if Instax is 35, this is really my little medium format treat right here. Sure. Right. Yeah. And so I went from not having it to it looking terrible to it doing better, right? Mm-hmm. And I get on your side, like the end consumer just wants it to work. The end consumer just wants it to work. Totally, 100%. I get that. I'm grateful it exists. This is kind of where my appreciation for Polaroid exists. Yeah. But I made a video talking about how like people call Instax Polaroid film, but what happens when the brand leader is not holding up to the name it used to be? And I had to do the breakdown of like it was a Possible Project, it was Polaroid Originals, now it's Polaroid, like blah, 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 whatever. And this is why I don't mind having this talk where I'm like, we're gonna have it for a little bit longer, like you can enjoy the process. But I do understand like the batteries are not gonna be able to change. Like will it go sour? Are you gonna be able to swap it out? I feel that. I totally feel that for the end consumer. Is the film like gonna get better over time? Like I would hope so. I mean, I've seen it, but it's Chris. I feel you. But I wanted to let you know that I lean a little bit more towards. I think the 1.2 is a good thing, even though I don't own it myself. Yeah. And I think you do own it, right? Don't you? Didn't you purchase it?
I bought it. I own it. Yeah. It's sitting on a shelf. Haven't used it in a few months, but I own it.
Fair.
No. So I've been very public and vocal about this. That Polaroid is my favorite format to shoot. Instant photography. I enjoy it. I also have. We get into arguments meaning my photos and I get into arguments because Polaroid lately their inconsistencies have been extraordinarily frustrating because I'm having to pay for these inconsistencies in the film. Like I've said this before. A brand new pack of film that Polaroid sent me with the i2, all 8 photos didn't come out. They were dried up chemistry inside. Half spreads, like that is completely unacceptable. It was brand new film from the year 2023. You know, and I've had multiples of that, shot after shot, last few months. And then what's really scary is that Polaroid is now starting to do marketing campaigns of that. Embrace the chaos, embrace the imperfectness, and blah blah blah. I'm like, that's what is going on. They obviously know what the freak is like. Oh shoot, we had a bad batch for like 6 months, but we're not gonna throw it away. We'll just sell it off, which they do. They did that with the green duochrome. They messed it up. Instead of just taking a tax break, they wanted to make a profit. Which is a business at the end of the day. I understand. But they're just passing it off to us. So I love you, Polaroid, but I also am frustrated with you, Polaroid. I'm glad they put out this camera too. That is exciting. That is really cool. It's showing they're trying, but I also think that they're missing the mark at the same time because look at how popular Instax Mini is. That's really the leader in the instant photography market. It's not us.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not us that's causing them to stay in business. It's the casual person, the teenage girl, pretty much buying Instax Minis, overseas. They're absolutely insane.
They love that.
Polaroid should be seeing that and making a huge effort into trying to capitalize on it. And they need to be focusing on the Polaroid Go more. They put that camera out and then what? Nothing. Like, oh, here we go. Here's some black frame photos. You know, it's like they've barely done anything. They need to be expanding that line, pushing that way more. And I think that's what will keep them in business a lot longer, because get that film cost a little cheaper, make the camera cheaper. There's no reason for the Polaroid Go to be $100. Get out of here. They literally
I own the Go. I own it, and yeah,
I do too. I do too. The Go should not be $100. They literally put out the Go, and then they're like, "Oops, it's the same price as the Polaroid Now." So guess what? The Now is now $120 out of nowhere. They just raised the price right after the Go came out.
Yeah.
And then they can put it on sale sometimes for $100. I'm like, guess what, guys? That's just what it was a year ago. Yeah. But I love Polaroid. I know it may not look like it, but I really do. I think I'm so passionate about it because I do love it so much. And so it frustrates me to see some of these things where I'm like, no, guys, stop. You're missing the mark. You're missing the mark. And yeah, they just need to hire me. Let me come on there.
I don't know. It's such a feeling. I honestly, I think we both talked about it. I think you've seen it on the pod in your one of the last podcasts you were talking about, where you're like, I've been shooting more Instax wide. I personally shoot boxes and boxes of Instax wide. I'm maybe once a month I'll buy about 80 photos, give or take, and I'll go through the 80 every month. So like, I don't know what that maths out to, but don't math it out because it's probably way too expensive. But it is a bit frustrating because it's like with anything camera wise, where it's Polaroid film is like telling somebody, like showing somebody like this, like a Super 8 camera,
Yeah.
And then being like, oh, you don't even want to see what's next to me. but like, it's like showing somebody a Super 8 camera type thing, and you're like, look at this camera, and they're like, oh, I love it, right? And you're like, yeah, it shoots film, and then you show them the results. They're like, oh, that's gorgeous. I want that. How much? And you're like, well, you got to pay for the film, you got to pay for the development, plus you got to pay for the camera, and you get about 2 minutes per roll. And you know how hard it is to sell it when there's so many I'm like, it takes a level of a little bit of like, you got to love it to want it, you got to love it so much you're willing to deal with all that. And I think that's me with Polaroid. I would say that's probably you with Polaroid, where it's like, you got to jump so many hoops for you to want it this bad, because it's tough to get into. It's I think all film photography, even down to like a disposable, like let's say you go from nothing and be like, okay, well, you shot the thing, the film's in the camera, and they're like, okay, now what? Well, you got to find a local lab, you do the research, you got to send it out somewhere, go to the mail. You've never done that. You got to take all these leaps and bounds, and it's just like, do you love it that much? You got to, learn something new, and it's, I would say with our channels, we try to bridge the gap from not knowing it to the uncomfortable, like, oh, now you do know it. Now you can take a bigger leap to your own camera, a non-disposable camera, a film camera, an instant camera. It's, it gets to that, but Polaroid film has been like harder and harder to justify. Admittedly, I always recommend to people I'm like, do you want the instant shots? I'm like, get an Instax wide. If you're bad at framing, get an Instax wide. There's a lot more real estate for you to miss, basically. And I tell people straight up, I'm like, cheaper, I shoot photos. Polaroid. Yeah. I'm like, I shoot it because this is so near and dear to me. This is like a process I've enamored for years. Even when I was a kid, I have Polaroids with me as a kid type thing.
When I don't recommend, if someone's just getting started, I never recommend Polaroid to start. Because everything you're just saying, there's so many hoops you got to jump through with it. But once you find out you like shooting instant photography, I push people to it, because it's the most like it has that nostalgic feel. It is what you think of when you think instant photography. However, like, I think a lot of people forget about this, is that people today, we've outgrown the a lot of the generations that just, oh, it's a Polaroid. We know what that is, and we know how to shoot it. Kids these days, or even the last 10, 15 years, even 20 maybe, don't they grew up with digital cameras or their phones and stuff, and they're working backwards, and they don't know how to even handle it. Plus, it's not even Polaroid. It's not even what it is anymore. Like, you can't, because it can't be whatever it was back in the day. It's because of the chemistry and all that stuff. But that's why I had to freaking create my own like master class, just to be like break it all down in one location, in one spot. It covers instant or all instant, like even Fuji, but like it's mostly just how to handle Polaroid, like how to freaking use it. You can't shoot it like a can like digital and all that stuff. But I think a lot of people forget about that. I think Polaroid themselves might even forget about that. Like new people coming in.
I can't point too many fingers. It's such a strange relationship. I'm trying to be as nice as I possibly can to it, because they also had to, jump a bunch of hoops to get to the point that we are now, type thing. I was there for the whole process, the whole roller coaster of the process from the beginning, since the Impossible Project days. Like, I've been in that realm, so I understand that, but I do think of the end consumer. I do think of myself when shots come out gorgeous and they're proper. I have a refurbished camera. I've used Dennis's camera. He sent it to me from the UK. I think that's from the UK. And I'm just like, damn, this thing is solid. Like, you've done an amazing job, and the colors are really crisp. The rollers, everything about it's it's beautiful. But it's such an interesting topic. I think that we don't see the end of it. We don't see their end of it of how I've watched a handful of the other podcasts, and Polaroid's just this entity. I mean, there was even that point where they were just throwing their branding on Fuji stuff. Like, the first one I had was a rebranded Fuji thing, or they're throwing their branding on like Bluetooth speakers and stuff like that. Now they make their own Bluetooth speakers, and it is what it is. But like, man, it's such a strange feeling. It's an odd feeling to place, because you're just like, personally you love it. It's like it's like a relative you have to warn people about. You know what I mean? You're just like, hey,
they're fun
at the dinner table,
but they get a little rowdy at times.
Like, but if they start drinking, take the camera away from them.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's. I'm trying to be as terribly and silly and kind to them, because I still personally use it. I do too. It's gone less. Yeah. So with the invention of, this is not a plug. They don't pay me anything. I wish they did. They send me things sometimes. The Lomo Graph Lock. I do 4x5 portraits on my right. I bought a 4x5 camera just for that. Yeah. And again,
I wanted to mess around with one of those.
Ooh, if you have questions. So I bought a new lens, because the 127 one that it had, it's not my favorite for portraits. 3D printed lens board, which is really cool, and it's on like a literally decrepit freaking, this thing is just done 4x5 speed graphic, but all it is just a way to hold the lens, some ground glass, and with the Lomo Graph Lock, I'm cranking out portraits like no other. When I do photo events, I usually take everybody's portrait, and they're just like, "Whoa, what the heck?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's like my favorite party trick to pull out."
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to try that out. Lomography is super cool. I love lomography. When I was just starting out, I had no followers. They're like, "Here, you can borrow a wide camera, one of our wides." They actually they work with people. I like that.
Yeah,
they're good.
When I went to New York, the first time I went, they were like sponsoring an event they had, and it's something that I bit. I took it from them, not like take steal, but like they had a one shot challenge where they had a Diana Mini or a Diana Mini Plus, and they were like, okay, you get one shot, you take a picture, you hand it back, you put your name and a way to contact you, and we'll judge like with a panel and say, whoever had the best photo wins a prize.
Nice.
And I was just like, I like that. That was like such a little treat to the day. Well, I ended up winning the contest, and so I was just like, and so they sent me a Diana, and I was just like, cool, that was very sweet.
That's awesome.
And with my photo events, the ones that I throw locally. Um, I was just like, I like that. I like that idea of bringing your own gear, but also trying something you've never used before, and making it work and see how creative people can get with something that's not theirs.
Yeah.
And so I usually do that. We've had 4 photo events this last year. And I'm not gonna lie, Chris, it's something that locally, you know how you're saying there's not much of a camera scene. There's not like, you know, in my area there was like people who shot film, or people who took digital photos, or creators type thing, and they were there, but they weren't all in one space at one time type thing.
Yeah.
And I highly encourage you. I think I feel like this is strange to say, but I feel like if you don't make it, you specifically, you're going to get pissed when somebody does it and they do it wrong.
I know. That's the story of my life. All right. Well, let's go into some audience questions. There are a few. Yep. Here we go. Max Sparkplug on Instagram.
Yes, Mario,
you know him. Nice.
Yep.
Favorite production instant camera and favorite instant camera mod. What would they be?
First off, I want to shout out Mario, Max Sparkplug. I have tried. I've tried his big wide. I love it. I want one so bad. They're so cool. I'm a massive loser for the big shot. And that might be a loaded question, Mario, if you're watching this, that you want me to plug your product.
Right, yeah. It sounds like it.
Yeah, and it's because I enjoy it, not because you asked the question. I want one so bad. They're so cool. You said favorite instant camera was the first part?
He says favorite production instant camera.
Production instant camera. Ooh, that's a tough one. I want to lean the Polaroid 680. He might know I've taken his photo on my passport camera, on my Polaroid Mini Portrait 203, which is one of my babies. But that one, you know, the peel apart film is so expensive that I can't lead people to that back. You can't even buy that back anymore. It's tough to find.
Yeah.
But production camera has to be the Polaroid. I would say it's the accessible option is the Polaroid 680. The non-accessible option to shoot, I mean, like really expensive option is the Polaroid Mini Portrait. I think it's cool. It's old Hollywood. It's like it's gangsters. How I love it.
There
and then the second part was
mod. Instant camera mod.
Oof. I know you've had the Retrograde Engineer, right? He has the SX37 for my Polaroid 680. You just pop it on. I was like, you have one. You have one too, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I literally have like a bunch of 37 lenses for like different accessories because it's all in like the same. I can't live without it.
Same.
I have I have a few filter effects for it, and it's just that little cool extra touch for my 680 that makes it just like gorgeous.
Nice. Only the best visuals asks on Instagram. If you had to choose one camera to shoot with for a year, what camera would that
be? First off, don't put me in that position where I only have to shoot one. I hate that.
So before you answer that, I've told people, I've announced I want to do a camera challenge where I only use one camera for like a week, maybe a month. Maybe I'll do it for an entire month. I don't know if that's kind of hard, especially for my challenge. 'Cause I have to review cameras all the time. But I think it'd be kind of fun. But yeah, what would yours be?
So only the best visuals is as a person from Fresno. I always have to shout. I feel like I have to shout out the people because I'm like they're so cool, and I'm big on like. Absolutely amazing at his craft. He started getting into film, and it's really fun. He goes to the events. He showed up to the events. Shout out to him. I want to say if there was only one for 1 year, it's the one I've been mastering. It's my. I know you have a Yashica D.
I do.
I have I think this is like similar. There's not many two differences from it. The 124.
Wow.
I was like, they're pretty much almost clones of each other. I think it's maybe internal light meter is the only difference.
Oh, it has an internal light mirror. That's cool. And the hand crank. The Shikadi doesn't have a hand crank. Yeah, it doesn't
Oh,
have
okay,
that.
fair. Yeah, don't worry. The light meters are never good on these things. You have to get them usually fixed up. So I manually meter for it. But this is my 1 year. This is the camera that after I bought it, I got it refurbished, and I was just like, okay, since I review cameras similar, same to you. I'm always trying out something new.
Right.
I'm always have a project in my hand. I always gotta, and so it's like master of none, type energy. And so I said, okay, I need to hone down and work on being the best at this one specifically. I love the large negatives. I love the image output. I love the top-down view.
Yeah.
So Yashica at 124. This is my baby. I own 2 of these. This is just one of them, but this is my go-to. Even has look at my branding on the back.
There it is. Don't show it too much. Might get sued.
No, blur that out if you can. Just show it quick and then blur it out.
There you go. All right. A couple more here. We've got Astro Joel's. Says, I know you're mostly. I think it's kind of directed to kind of both of us, but he says, or they say, I know you mostly cover instant photography, but what are your thoughts on the Mint 35mm camera? I've seen briefly announcements. I'm on the press release stuff. I didn't really dive much into it, so I'll lean more on you. What do you think?
Okay, so again, like I've been following the Mint products for a long time with their Instax wide camera. I didn't purchase one. I very recently had the chance to like try one, and I like the build. I like how it's made. It feels like they're putting a bunch of money into R&D, and they're not crazy cheaping out on like things. It's super easy to cut corners and costs when it comes to these things, thinking like if we make it too premium, it'll be way too expensive. And I think it's that perfect in between.
Yeah.
So I think I'd seen the price, and we've seen with certain camera things they'll announce one price and then it's like hundreds of dollars more because it just takes time and whatever whatever it is at the end of the day. I do like that it's LiDAR autofocus. I think is one of the features.
That's pretty sweet.
If they keep the same build and the same ergonomics of the original ones, I think they'll do really well. I'm sorry, I burped a little bit.
Okay.
I think they'll do really well. I'm ecstatic that there's new cameras being produced, which is like a godsend. I love new things in the space for cameras, but yeah, overall good thoughts. Will I be purchasing one? No, but I love it. I love it exists. I'll tell people about it. I'll tell whatever. I'll try to read into other people whose opinion I value and what they say to see if maybe that's a perfect fit for whoever that person is. But yeah, your thoughts on it. It could be different than mine. I don't mind hearing.
I really don't. I really haven't dove deep into it. I think I saw a picture of it, and that's as much as I know. So I just I learned everything from you just now. So I really have no thoughts. It's 35, right? Yeah, it's 35. I did know that. It seems interesting. I might reach out to them, maybe get a loaner, but they've always said no to me. Yep. So we'll see. But
it's all right, Chris. I have been. This is a safe space to say that I've been left on red by so many companies.
Oh, me too.
And I'm just like,
it's
normal.
Yeah.
And
normal.
so it's just like, no, it's fine.
I used to have a channel that had over 100,000 subscribers, and it would get left on red all the time. It just comes down to the company itself on how, if they like to work with creators or they don't. That's really it. Yeah. It's kind of a bummer because the majority of the instant photography companies, which aren't many, there's only a few, they aren't big on working with creators. There's only a couple.
I've reached out to Fujifilm so many times. I'll tell you. I'll put up straight up say it, right?
Yeah, me too.
And
never heard back.
Nothing.
Yeah, never heard back.
And I'm just like, you don't even know. I was like, I've literally sent them all the links to the videos where I'm like, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who's telling people I'm doing your own PR for you, and they're just kind of like radio science. And I'm like, okay, I'm still a fan. Like I'm still gonna buy it, but it would be cool for it to be such an organic collaboration where I'm like, I love your product. You probably don't need the PR because people are still buying your film, and then
it would
we work
cost
together.
them nothing to be like, here is a year of film, for one, let's say, and here is a camera. That's like nothing. There'd literally be pennies in the bucket for them.
Yeah.
Not that I want that. I'm just saying in perspective.
I do. I'll say it.
A lot of times when I talk about that stuff, people they only hear the part like, "Ooh, you're just like, boo hoo, give me this, pick me." Mm-hmm. That's not what I'm doing. What it really is pointing out, like, from a strategic business side, and it just so happens to overlap with some of the interests of me, because I could say the same thing about like a car company sending a car to like a car reviewer, but then they skipped over a car reviewer that's like the best known one or whatever, right? I'd be like, hey, what the heck's going on there? It's something like that. Yeah. And so that's my points that sometimes gets missed, and people let me know in the comments, which is fine. Please send me hate mail. There's a PO box in the description.
I'll send you a personal pizza. I won't send hate mail.
Well, I'll send the personal pizza to my house, because the pizza will go bad by the time I go to the to that. Okay, cool. Yeah. So last couple. There's a couple more here. From our boy Dennis, Chromatic Parts.
Hey, shout out. Love him.
He's like, pass on to Diego my hello. And is your favorite camera? Wait, is your favorite camera? Sorry, I can't read today. If your favorite camera could talk, what do you think it'd say?
Oh man, it'd probably be like, get me off this shelf. I'm tired of sitting here.
Just blow the dust off this thing.
No, look at this. Okay, right? Look at it. See, this is the camera. You may have seen this. It's a 16 lens.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that before. That's pretty sweet.
Right, sweet camera, right? People would be like, I would love to have this. The case for this is so dusty because it's the first time I've picked it up in like a month.
Yeah, trust me, I know how it goes. There's some beautiful cameras on my shelf over there. Just like, they help me, pick me, shoot me.
Pretty much. If they could talk, they would be like, they would probably feel so neglected. It'd be like, why is there all of us here and nothing's happening?
Yeah.
And it's just like,
or for me, they're like, hey, they're still filming this. You might want to shoot it before it goes bad. Because there's some of them up in there. I've been like in there for like a year. I'm like, that's probably not going to be good anymore. Eli's asking the biggest question, probably the best one or the most important question of this entire podcast.
I'm ready.
What is your favorite bread? Oof. We need to know.
How much time do you have? First off, you got to break down by grain, price point. Like, what are we looking at? Price. We're looking at price, nutritional value. That's a big one.
Is it gluten? Has it got gluten in it? Is it gluten free?
Accessibility. Is it in my local grocery store? We have to find out these things. Yeah. I might have to drive and spend all this gas. No, I'm just kidding. Wonder, probably. I don't know.
Well, it's classic Wonder bread, going straight for the white bread. Nice.
Yeah, come on.
I'm probably going to go with this. It might be controversial a little bit, maybe not. But it has to be toasted. But I go with ciabatta, toasted ciabatta.
Okay, we come from different. we're cut from a different loaf. I feel.
It sounds like Wonder bread. Squiddy John asks, do you have to aim, then shoot, then develop, or can you swap them around?
Ooh, so I tried developing before doing any of those, and it's just a bunch of blank exposures.
Damn. Well, I guess you technically could swap aiming. You don't have to aim. You can just blind fire.
True. It could be a two-step process if you really are feeling that type of way, I guess, that day. But there's no worse feeling than when I used to shoot peel-apart film, and there's a dark slide, the little green little thing you pull out. I would say with most film, some have the fail-safe that it won't fire unless the dark slide's taken out. But for whatever reason, on certain Polaroid cameras, on like the Goose or maybe the Mamiya Press, I think the Mamiya Press does have a failsafe, but the Goose I don't think has. That I would take a picture, be stoked, peel it, nothing, and then see the dark slide in it. So aim, shoot, develop is from me literally learning that lesson hard, and me baking it into my existence of like, don't make the same mistakes I did, please. Like, I'm trying my best to help y'all out.
I did that recently, except not with the dark slide. Actually, it was last year. Actually, it was in February of last year. Wow, almost a year ago. I was in Florida, and what I like to do,
I love it. I'll
Yeah.
go for it. I love adult times where it's just like, wait up, that was 12 years ago. Never mind, but go off.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, wow, that was 14 years. That felt like yesterday. No, so pack film's gone, right? No, and very few people even have the opportunity nowadays to shoot it.
Yeah.
That thought process in my head, I'm like, there's a lot of people that don't get to shoot or have never had the opportunity to shoot it. So I have this, because and somebody's actually sent me a couple boxes in the mail, and I've purchased a few over the years of like FP100C, and someone sent a couple boxes to my PO box, and I have one shot still left sitting in my Polaroid 250. It's in the fridge. But I've traveled around the country, like with different, like meeting up with different people or whatever, and I've let them shoot it. Most of the photos in there I haven't even shot, or I let them do it because let them experience it at least one time in their life. And so as I'm traveling, I disconnect the battery to keep it from like draining, and let someone shoot it, and I forgot to hook up the battery, and so completely wasted a shot. I was so mad. And it was a perfect spread, so we reshot it, and it wasn't a perfect spread. It was a little, the sun was going down too, so we'd wasted a couple of minutes waiting for it to develop for no reason at all. And so the next shot was a little bit dark, and it was a little slight non-spread, but got perfect spread black shot. Pitch black.
Those and the worst part about those 250s is that it sounds like it took a photo too. It'll give you that click, right, and you're like, oh, got it. But if you don't hear that second
little double click, you can't hear that double click. Like, oh man. So that one hurt.
Remember that?
That one hurt.
Oof. Yeah, it stings, dude. That's that my username. This is a little bit of information. I was going through it because my first Polaroid land camera was the 250, same as you. Or you have a 250, I have a 250.
Yeah.
And I was going through the manual and like I was just like, I'll just name it something. You know, I was going through the instruction manual and it was like the process of how to shoot it, and it was like aim, shoot, develop. Like I flipped a page and it said develop eventually, and I'm like, that's my name.
There you go. That's how you gotta do it.
And so
aim, shoot, develop. It's a good one. Where can the fine people find you to catch what you got going on?
Okay, so locally, if you're in the Fresno area or even a ways out, maybe like an hour if you want to commute. I've had one person commute like hours to go to a photo event, which like wild. Love that. He had a great time, which is really fun. But if you're in the Central Valley in California, come to our photo events. They're very sweet. It's really lighthearted of people just like bringing any camera they have, a digicam, their phone. Like, I think the community aspect of photography is something that I think most people should try their best to be a part of, because nobody's going to hype up your work more than a photographer who knows who you are, who can vouch for you specifically. Like, there's no better feeling of your work being hyped up by people who know who you are and want to see you succeed. Like, it's an amazing feeling. So if you're in the surrounding area of Fresno, you can come to one of the photo events. I post about them on my Instagram, Aim to Develop. You can see on the highlights, it's just like little highlights from the day and other people's photos from the day. Instagram, Aim to Develop, where it's some of my work, which I'm starting to post a lot more now. I used to just post like videos and reels, and now I'm like, dang, I think I should actually focus on the photography aspect, which is so backwards. But I eventually just want to like just share my work, to show people the process. It's always a good thing to have, and really hone in my skills with one specific camera, my Yashica Mat. If you wanted to find me on YouTube, I talk about obscure cameras, like at the beginning, the clear can camera. Oh, I don't know if you've seen this one. This is a little bit rare. It is my McDonald's 110 camera.
I have seen that, and I've always wanted one. That's awesome.
Oh, this is the last one. I made one last video about this. It's a Fed 3 custom painted.
That's awesome.
The seller started making more of these, so it's always cool to tell them. It's from Ukraine. It's hand painted. Everything's hand painted. The lens, the numbers, even the lens cap. I ran a roll through it. The pictures are, they're good. It's just like an old Soviet era lens.
Yeah.
And the pictures are what you expect it to be. Just like just classic
Right.
photos. Nothing crazy special. The specialness is the camera itself.
Yeah. Well,
So
for the listeners and watchers, that's what you can expect on his channel. Go follow him. He's got some cool stuff.
And, yeah. The last bit is if you want to see my ramblings, go on TikTok. It's really off-cuff videos. Me, old man yells at cloud. You know, Abe Simpson, just like, I'm gonna tell you straight. It's the truth of photography. It's the truth of things. It's the things that people who are in this realm don't speak of, because sometimes it lines their pockets. You know, people not knowing this information. Sometimes it, you know, they just don't have the time to make the videos. Probably more times they don't have the time to make the videos.
Yeah, it's always the case.
And so I'm trying to demystify all of that, all the things that I know, and break those barriers so people can get into it and enjoy it themselves. So awesome. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, aim, shoot, develop. Even on Pinterest. If you look at Pinterest, it's like a massive highlight reel of all the cameras I've owned that I've sold off over time. It's pretty fun.
That's awesome. Well, links to find Aim, Shoot, Develop, aka Diego, is in the description. And dude, I appreciate you coming on, man. I really, really enjoyed this. We might have to have you back on for maybe a live stream. I've been trying to get guests that have been on podcasts for live streams, for audiences to come on and watch and get questions answered live. That'd be pretty fun. Well, again, appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Ooh, wow, that was such a great conversation. I can't wait to meet him because he'll be at Polacon. I'll be at Polacon. It's going to be a blast. So if anybody is listening to this before Polacon Bay Area, aka San Francisco, has happened, hopefully you guys can consider checking it out. And if you do go, come say hello. I'll be having some fun stuff with me that maybe you can get your hands on. It's going to be super exciting. I'm excited for sure. Never been. And hopefully, we can land the Jason Lee here on the podcast in the future. Don't know yet. Nothing has been set. No plans have been made. It's all just up in the air as a giant maybe. But that will be really, really exciting. And be sure to check out Diego. All the links to his socials are in the description. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Now, get out there. Make some art.